All right, welcome back to the morning show. Thank you very much for choosing to stay with us. Just a week ago, our very own Zozibini Tunzi stood on the Miss Universe stage and said, nothing is as important as taking up space in society and cementing yourself. And that seems to be the message when it comes to leadership and entrepreneurship. Well, someone who knows way too well about this is Mohamed, who's a former TV broadcaster and now businesswoman. She recently attended the Sharjah Entrepreneurship Week in the UAE, and she's here to tell us all about it. But first, let's take a look at this video.
The point of this is actually inspiring the youth and inspiring people to start businesses. And the whole objective of this whole festival is to celebrate the successes and celebrate the failures.
But I think one of the most important things that the youth of South Africa, or the youth anywhere, need to understand is that your education is going to do very little to guarantee your happiness and fulfillment in life. But there is one thing you can take on, and that is mastery of self. Everyone should be reading and studying personal growth. I believe there's a success formula, 3 H's, head, heart, hands, that you could visualize. You could have a business in your head and these ideas in your head, but you're not acting with your hands because you're not inspired. Check in with the second H, which is your heart, which is the emotions.
Katie, welcome to the morning show.
Thank you.
Let's speak about some of the work that you do, because you're very inspirational, particularly in the entrepreneurship space and in issues of gender equality and the empowerment of women. You have you're creating a foundation and you run an organization that also works with women. Tell us more about all of that.
You know, coming from corporate and owning your own business, you know, you always find these challenges, and you often wonder, is if we had people that were there for us, that took us through this this avenue of success, would it be a little bit easy for you? So my journey is very specific. It's really a mission that I want to make it easy for other entrepreneurs. So last year, this year, I created an initiative called the W-Suite, which is Lead Like Women. It's really about how, as women, we can come together and collaborate. And of course, part of it is about women in the C-suite, but also philanthropists and entrepreneurs. And another key important thing is really about how do we get the youth entrenched into the fact is that they cannot afford to go to university, if they cannot afford to go to colleges, do they have these creative solutions to create an impact in society? So for me, my vision is very clear, is how do I create a social and economic impact in society?
Yeah, and I mean, you then went to the UAE for the Sharjah Entrepreneurship Week event that was happening there, which is part of those efforts to make sure that entrepreneurs get together and it becomes like an inclusive space of engagement. Tell us about that campaign that you attended and the event that you attended.
So around the world, you know, we follow the sustainable development goals. So, you know, part of what I wanted to do is always find out what other countries and other regions are doing. Yeah. So when we are on this mission of going out and talking to entrepreneurs, we give them ideas that they might not know what the global agenda is driving. So having been invited to the festival, my main aim was to meet with inspirational leaders and entrepreneurs and policymakers and have a discussion about how different are we from an Africa context to the rest of the world? And I was very surprised.
Yeah, I mean, how are we faring in South Africa when we are compared to other countries? Because we had our own Global Entrepreneurship Week that ran here in South Africa. And here on the show, we actually featured a few entrepreneurs who were speaking about their journeys. But it seems when it comes to comparison, we are not quite there yet. But what did you find as you attended the Sharjah Entrepreneurship Week?
South Africa is definitely lagging behind. And for me, I personally say that in a way of how do I find these solutions to make it work? So if you look at Kenya and East Africa, they create innovative solutions to become successful entrepreneurs. So for me I think as South Africans are we creating jobs for ourselves or are we creating entrepreneurs? And I think that is the discussion that we need to have. Yes. So coming back, I know that my main aim is to communicate that, is how do we find what our communities need, what our markets need in order to find these creative solutions.
And speaking of finding what our communities need, Katie, we find that in terms of our economy, there's a high rate of unemployment. And so people will say, no, entrepreneurship then is, for me, the solution, or people who don't want to go out looking for jobs and have to report to someone will go the entrepreneurship route. So when it comes to then looking at the unemployment rate in the country, should we be going the entrepreneurship route for ourselves, or should we be creating lasting solutions for our communities and then ultimately for the country?
I think as South Africans, we have a triple whammy. We have unemployment, we have inequality,
yes,
as well as
we have poverty.
We have poverty.
Yeah.
So they're quite it's a huge mind shift that we need to create. So for me, it's finding out what we want to do. And I think at the festival, it was really not about making money as well. It's really about finding yourself, finding what you want to achieve, from a lasting perspective. We can all go in and open up businesses and run businesses, but is it going to be sustainable for ourselves? And I think we often talk about sustainability when it comes to wealth and money. We need to be able to also, when we make the money, be able to know how to handle this money.
Yes.
And I don't know if we are there yet as South Africans. So, we get our first tender, our first project. Do we have the great business plans that are going to take us there, or do we just want to buy our new car and our houses? So it's also a mindset that we need to change.
Yeah. And speaking of mindset, I mean, when we were speaking earlier on, you said, when you go into entrepreneurship and some of the people that you met, for instance, who were speaking about social entrepreneurship, but also the importance of mind, body, and soul when you go into business, because entrepreneurship can really get lonely. And if you go into it with a mentality of, I'm just going to buy a car, I'm just going to buy a house, and you're not fully prepared for it, you can literally just go into disaster. So if you then, Katie, with the lessons that you learned in the UAE, if you were to share those lessons with entrepreneurs here at home, what would those be and what would you say to them?
Akon's a social entrepreneur that we know. I mean, he's, come from an entertainment industry and now wants to create an impact. He was very clear that in order for us to be transformational, we have to be transactional.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's going around, and I created the Brand Fusion Foundation specifically to go in and speak to entrepreneurs and the youth in the TVET colleges to talk about how important it is that we often think about the youth is our future. But the youth is our present.
Yeah.
And how can we make the difference now? So for me, coming back is really to tell the entrepreneurs, it's align your goals. Read a lot of books. And if you can't afford to read books, put it on social media. Share these ideas. Yeah. And I think social media is also a great impact. It's a great impact for us as entrepreneurs, because we tend to actually get a lot of feedback from social media.
Yeah. And Katie, let's speak about, because earlier on we spoke about Miss Universe and the fact that she was saying it's important for young women to take up the space and for leadership to also be a big thing when it comes to the empowerment of women. How important is it for entrepreneurs to be able to be involved to that depth of actually being able to bring young women into the conversation of entrepreneurship and also being able to empower them?
Leadership is a key thing in all our lives. And I think we all lead naturally. I always say we lead like women. We lead the boardrooms, we lead a corporate, we lead our businesses. So for me, leadership is extremely important, but it's about how great a leader can we be.
Yeah.
And the only way we can do that is if we have conversations, if we have dialogues of understanding what our opportunities and as well as what our challenges are. And that's the way we create impact, is really about finding or changing the narrative.
Yeah. Yeah. Katie, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. I wish we had more time to go into all of this, but really, really appreciate it. And all the best with the foundation as well as the organization, your organization, Lead Like Women.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. That was Katie Mohamed there speaking to us about her travels to the UAE and her experience at the Sharjah Entrepreneurship Week. Stay tuned to The Morning Show. More when we return.